Welcome back to Viral Stories, where we bring you the most incredible real-life events that shake the internet. Today's story is one that combines Hollywood-level action with Silicon Valley drama, topped off with a political twist that nobody saw coming. If you're watching this from anywhere in the world, drop a comment below letting us know where you're tuning in from, because this story made headlines everywhere. It was a quiet Thursday morning at Elon Musk's heavily fortified compound in Austin, Texas. The sun had barely risen over the horizon when Sarah Martinez, head of Musk's security team, noticed something unusual on the perimeter cameras. The security system, arguably one of the most sophisticated private installations in the world, showed no signs of breach. Yet something felt off to her trained eye. The birds weren't singing their usual morning chorus, and the air felt thick with an unseen tension. Inside the compound, 14-year-old X.A.A.12 Musk, known simply as X to friends and family, was preparing for another day of his meticulously scheduled life. Despite being the son of the world's most controversial tech billionaire, X had maintained a surprisingly grounded personality. That morning, he was reviewing some advanced AI algorithms on his holographic display, a morning routine that would soon be dramatically interrupted. What nobody knew at that moment was that an elaborate plan, months in the making, was about to unfold. Viktor Petrov, a Russian oligarch who had lost billions due to Musk's market manipulations, had assembled an elite team led by the notorious Marcus the Shadow Chen. Their mission: to orchestrate the most high-profile kidnapping in modern history. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Jason Statham was wrapping up a security consultation in London. The former Special Forces operative had built a reputation as the go-to specialist for impossible situations. His phone buzzed with a message that would soon pull him into one of the most challenging operations of his career. The message was simple: the Falcon's nest has been compromised. The shadow is moving. Back in Austin, Sarah Martinez was reviewing the security footage when she noticed something that made her blood run cold. The morning guard rotation had been perfect, too perfect. The movements were mechanical, rehearsed. She reached for her phone, but before she could raise the alarm, the first explosion rocked the compound's western perimeter. What happened next would become the subject of intense media speculation, viral videos, and eventually a congressional hearing. In less than 3 minutes, Marcus Chen's team executed what security experts would later call the perfect breach. Using a combination of electromagnetic pulses, drone-based countermeasures, and inside intel provided by the corrupt tech executive Diana Frost, they managed to penetrate 7 layers of security. The attack was precisely timed to coincide with a momentary gap in satellite coverage, a detail that would later raise serious questions about the level of inside information the kidnappers possessed. As alarms blared and security protocols initiated, X found himself separated from his private security detail. The teenager, showing remarkable presence of mind, activated his emergency beacon and followed the evacuation protocols his father had drilled into him since childhood. But the kidnappers were one step ahead. They had anticipated every contingency, every failsafe, every escape route. What they hadn't counted on, however, was Sarah Martinez's paranoia and her connection to Jason Statham. As chaos erupted, she made 2 calls, one to Elon Musk, who was in the air somewhere over the Pacific, and another to a secure line in London. Statham was already moving. Years of experience had taught him that in situations like these, seconds meant the difference between life and death. He had worked with Martinez before, on another high-stakes operation that remains classified to this day. As he boarded a private jet at London City Airport, his mind was already processing the information he had on Marcus Chen, a ghost in the international security community known for executing impossible operations with surgical precision. The next 48 minutes would become the subject of intense speculation across social media platforms. X, demonstrating the quick thinking he'd inherited from his father, managed to leave a trail of digital breadcrumbs as he was taken, subtle markers that would later prove crucial. The kidnappers, in their surgical precision, had overlooked one critical factor: They were dealing with the son of a tech genius, a boy who had been coding since he could walk. As news of the kidnapping broke, the global media exploded. Elon Musk's private jet made an immediate turn toward Austin, but the real action was already unfolding on the ground. Sarah Martinez had initiated Protocol Omega, a contingency plan so classified that only 3 people knew of its existence. Within minutes, a secure channel was established between Statham's incoming jet, Martinez's command center, and a hidden facility deep beneath the Austin compound. But the story was about to take an unexpected turn. As Statham's plane entered American airspace, a tweet appeared on Donald Trump's Truth Social account. "Just heard about the terrible event at my friend Elon's place. Nobody talks about it, but I know things, important things. The deep state might be involved. Stay tuned." This single post would set off a chain reaction that would eventually entangle the FBI, international intelligence agencies, and some of the most powerful figures in global politics. Agent James Cooper, the FBI special agent assigned to the case, would later describe it as a perfect storm of high-tech crime, international intrigue, and political dynamite. As Statham's plane began its descent into Austin, the first videos of the kidnapping were already going viral. Security footage leaked by an unknown source showed the precision of the attack. Tech experts on social media were dissecting every frame, every movement, leading to wild theories and speculation. But Statham, watching the footage on his secure tablet, saw what others missed: subtle patterns that pointed to something bigger than a simple kidnapping. In Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump was already assembling his own team of advisors. The former president had a history with both Musk and Petrov, connections that would soon prove crucial to unraveling the mystery. His social media posts, seemingly random at first, would later be revealed as carefully calculated moves in a complex game of international intrigue. Sarah Martinez had transformed the compound's secure basement into a command center. Screens displayed real-time satellite imagery, data feeds, and communication channels. But it was a simple text message from an unknown number that caught her attention. "The shadow moves twice. The falcon flies at midnight." To most, it would seem like nonsense, but to Martinez, it was a message she had hoped never to receive, a confirmation that this kidnapping was just the beginning of something much bigger. As the first hour after the kidnapping drew to a close, 3 separate forces were converging on Austin, Texas. Jason Statham's plane was minutes from landing. FBI agent Cooper's task force was mobilizing. And somewhere in the digital ether, X's emergency protocols were quietly executing, laying digital breadcrumbs that only someone with his father's genius could follow. The stage was set for what would become not just a desperate race against time to save a teenage boy, but a complex web of technology, politics, and international intrigue that would captivate the world and break the internet. But at that moment, as Jason Statham's plane touched down in Austin, nobody could have predicted how deep the conspiracy went, or how Donald Trump's involvement would turn an already explosive situation into something that would shake the foundations of global power structures. The clock was ticking, and somewhere in the vast expanse of the American Southwest, a 14-year-old boy was leaving a trail of digital breadcrumbs, hoping that someone would be smart enough to follow them. The question wasn't just whether they would find him in time, but whether they were ready for what they would uncover along the way. Within 30 minutes of touching down in Austin, Jason Statham had transformed a section of Musk's compound into a tactical operations center. Screens displayed satellite imagery, thermal maps, and data streams that would seem like chaos to the untrained eye. But to Statham and Sarah Martinez, each pixel told part of a story that was becoming increasingly complex. Tyler "Tech" Thompson, the cybersecurity expert who had been quietly monitoring X's digital activities for years, made a discovery that changed everything. "They're not random," he announced, his fingers flying across multiple keyboards. "The boy's digital breadcrumbs. They're coded in a language he created with his father. It's like watching a chess game where only 2 people know the rules." Meanwhile, at Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump was hosting an unexpected gathering. Maria Petrov, the estranged wife of Viktor Petrov, had reached out through private channels. The former president's social media posts weren't just random musings. They were signals to a network of contacts he had maintained since his time in office. "Nobody knows Viktor like I do," Maria explained to Trump's inner circle. "This isn't about money. It's about something bigger, something that could change the balance of power in ways you can't imagine." Back in Austin, Statham was piecing together the pattern of the attack. The kidnappers hadn't just breached the compound's security, they had dismantled it with a precision that spoke of months of preparation. Diana Frost, the corrupt tech executive, had covered her tracks well, but she had made one crucial mistake. In her arrogance, she had used her personal encryption key to access the compound systems, leaving a signature that Statham had seen before. "I know her work," Statham told Martinez, his voice carrying the weight of past encounters. "She was involved in a similar operation in Dubai 3 years ago. But this is different. She's not just after money. She's after something specific, something in X's head." The FBI's involvement added another layer of complexity. Agent James Cooper arrived with a team of specialists, but his first action wasn't to take control, it was to show Statham a classified file. "What I'm about to tell you isn't officially sanctioned," Cooper said, glancing at the security cameras, "but there's something you need to know about why Viktor Petrov really wants Musk's son." The file contained details of a secret project, something X had been working on with his father. Not just advanced AI or neural networks, but something that could revolutionize how information moves across the globe. A technology that could make current encryption methods obsolete overnight. X hadn't just been studying algorithms. He had been helping to build something that every intelligence agency in the world would kill to possess. Donald Trump's next move surprised everyone. Instead of making another social media post, he arranged a private video call with Elon Musk, who was still in the air. The conversation, later leaked by an anonymous source, revealed a history between Trump, Musk, and Petrov that dated back to deals made in the shadows of international business. "Listen, Elon," Trump's voice carried its characteristic confidence, "I know things about Petrov that even his wife doesn't know. This isn't just about your boy. It's about what your boy knows. Remember that conversation we had in 2019? About the quantum thing? Petrov was there, and he never forgot what you said about X's potential." As this conversation was taking place, Statham and his team were following X's digital trail. The teenager hadn't just left clues, he had created a virtual escape room that only someone with specific knowledge could navigate. Each solved puzzle revealed another piece of his location, but also another layer of the conspiracy. Tyler Thompson's eyes widened as he decoded another of X's messages. "This is genius," he muttered, drawing Statham's attention. "The kid isn't just telling us where he is, he's revealing who's involved. Each puzzle is linked to a specific person in Petrov's organization. He's giving us the entire network." Sarah Martinez received an encrypted message from one of her contacts in the international intelligence community. The message contained thermal satellite imagery of a convoy moving through the Nevada desert. But what caught her attention wasn't the convoy, it was the pattern of their movement. "They're not taking him to a hiding place," she realized. "They're taking him to a facility, something big enough to house serious computing power." The next development came from an unexpected source. Marcus "The Shadow" Chen's team had maintained perfect radio silence, but one of his members made a single mistake. A cellular ping, lasting less than a second, was caught by the NSA's monitoring system. Agent Cooper's phone lit up with the coordinates, but the location made no sense. It was pointing to an abandoned military research facility that had been officially decommissioned decades ago. Trump, still at Mar-a-Lago, received a visit from an old associate, a former Russian diplomat who had once been Petrov's closest advisor. The conversation that followed would later be described in leaked intelligence reports as a master class in international power plays. The diplomat revealed that Petrov's interest in X wasn't just about the boy's knowledge. It was about his ability to complete a project that had been in development since the Cold War. Statham, processing all this information in real time, began to see the bigger picture. "They don't just want him," he explained to Martinez and Cooper. "They want to use him. This facility in Nevada, it's not abandoned. It's been active, running on a power grid that doesn't officially exist. They've been waiting for this, preparing for it." The operation was evolving from a kidnapping rescue into something far more complex. X's digital breadcrumbs weren't just leading them to his location. They were exposing a decades-old conspiracy involving multiple governments, corporations, and intelligence agencies. The teenager, proving himself to be truly his father's son, had turned his own kidnapping into a weapon against his captors. Maria Petrov's meeting with Trump revealed another crucial detail. Victor had been obsessed with a theoretical technology that Musk had once mentioned, a way to use quantum computing to create unhackable communication networks. X, it seemed, had not only understood the theory but had solved problems that had stumped experts for years. As the second hour of the investigation drew to a close, Statham received a direct message from X himself. The boy had managed to briefly access a network connection, sending a coded message that only someone with Statham's specific background would understand. "The shadow moves in patterns. The falcon knows where to look, but the bear is not what it seems." To most, it would have seemed like nonsense, but to Statham it confirmed his suspicions. Chen wasn't working for Petrov. They were both working for someone else. Someone who had been planning this operation long before X was even born. Trump's next move was characteristically bold. He announced a press conference at Mar-a-Lago scheduled for the next morning, but the real message was in the timing, 9:11 a.m. To those in the know, it was a reference to a secret meeting that had taken place years ago, involving Musk, Petrov, and several world leaders. The investigation was now operating on multiple levels. Statham and his team were following X's digital trail, getting closer to his physical location. The FBI was unraveling the network of corruption that had made the kidnapping possible. And in the political sphere, Trump was leveraging old connections to expose a conspiracy that went far beyond a simple kidnapping. As Chapter 2 draws to a close, all the players are in motion. Statham prepares his tactical team for what will surely be a complex rescue operation. Trump continues his diplomatic chess game from Mar-a-Lago. And somewhere in Nevada, a 14-year-old boy is using his genius to turn his captor's own technology against them, while the world holds its breath, waiting to see how this extraordinary story will unfold. Dawn was breaking over the Nevada desert as Jason Statham's tactical team took their positions around the supposedly abandoned research facility. Satellite imagery had confirmed what X's digital breadcrumbs had been telling them. Beneath the decaying exterior lay a state-of-the-art installation, its power consumption masked by sophisticated engineering that had kept it hidden for decades. At Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's press conference was about to begin, but the real action was happening behind the scenes. Maria Petrov had provided access to her husband's private servers, revealing a network of connections that stretched from Moscow to Silicon Valley. "Victor isn't just after the quantum computing breakthrough," she explained to Trump's advisors. "He's after what it enables, the ability to control every digital system on Earth." Back in Nevada, Statham was reviewing the final intel with Sarah Martinez through their secure channel. "The facility has 7 underground levels," Martinez explained, her voice tense. "X's last signal came from level 5, but they've been moving him. Chen's team is using a rotation pattern that's meant to confuse us, but the kid's been leaving us a trail." Tyler Thompson, monitoring the facility's power grid from a mobile command center, noticed something unusual. "The energy signatures are fluctuating in a specific pattern," he reported. "It's not random. It's binary. X is actually manipulating their power system to send us messages." The operation was complicated by a new development. Agent Cooper received word that several unmarked vehicles were approaching from the east, a Chinese military intelligence unit that wasn't supposed to be on U.S. soil. "This just got more interesting," Statham muttered, adjusting his tactical gear. They're not here for X. They're here for what he's already built. Inside the facility, Marcus Chen was beginning to realize that his perfect operation was unraveling. The teenager they'd kidnapped wasn't just a passive hostage. He was actively undermining their security systems, leaving digital tracks that he couldn't fully erase. "The boy is too dangerous to keep conscious," he told Viktor Petrov over their secure line. "We need to proceed with the extraction now." But X had anticipated this. In the weeks before his kidnapping, he had planted a series of dormant programs throughout the global network, programs that would activate under specific conditions. As Chen's team prepared to move him to the extraction point, these programs began to wake up. Trump's press conference began exactly at 9:11 a.m., and his words were carefully chosen. "Terrible thing, what's happening. Really terrible. But you know, I know things, important things, about bunkers, hidden bunkers, the deepest bunkers. And let me tell you about my friend Victor, who isn't really anyone's friend." The coded message hidden in Trump's seemingly rambling speech triggered a response. Maria Petrov released a cache of documents to selected media outlets, documents that revealed the true purpose of the Nevada facility. It wasn't just a research station. It was the control center for a quantum-based surveillance system that had been in development since the Cold War. Statham's team began their infiltration at precisely 9:17 a.m. Using data from X's power grid manipulations, they identified blind spots in the facility's security system. "The kid's actually rewriting their security protocols in real time," Thompson reported, his voice filled with amazement. "He's creating corridors of access, just for us." The first contact with Chen's forces came 3 levels down. Statham moved with the efficiency that had made him legendary in Special Forces circles, neutralizing threats with surgical precision. But it wasn't just about combat skills. Each encounter was calculated to reveal more information about the facility's layout and purpose. Meanwhile, X had managed to access a secondary computer system, using it to send a more detailed message to Thompson. The code revealed something stunning. The quantum computing breakthrough wasn't just theoretical. X and his father had already achieved it. But what they'd created was something entirely different from what Petrov and his allies expected. "It's not a weapon," Thompson realized, decoding X's message. "It's a shield. They created a way to make digital systems truly unhackable. That's why everyone's here. They don't want to control the system. They want to prevent it from being deployed." Trump's role in the unfolding drama took another turn when he received a direct call from Elon Musk, who had finally landed and was coordinating with multiple intelligence agencies. Their conversation, later leaked by an anonymous source, revealed a pact made years ago, an agreement between technological innovators and world leaders to prevent any single entity from achieving total digital control. As Statham's team fought their way deeper into the facility, they encountered increasingly sophisticated resistance. Chen's mercenaries were elite operators, but they were fighting on terrain that X had quietly turned against them. Security doors closed at crucial moments, ventilation systems shifted unexpectedly, and communication channels became unreliable. "The boy isn't just helping us," Statham realized as his team approached Level 5. "He's turning the entire facility into a trap for his kidnappers." The teenager had transformed his prison into a giant chess game, with Chen's team as unwitting pieces. Agent Cooper, coordinating with other federal agencies, was dealing with the diplomatic nightmare of Chinese operatives on U.S. soil. But the situation became even more complex when Russian units were detected approaching from the north. The Nevada desert was becoming ground zero for an international incident that could quickly escalate out of control. Inside the facility, Chen made a desperate decision. Rather than risk losing X, he ordered his team to initiate Protocol Zero, a scorched earth measure that would eliminate all evidence of the facility's true purpose. But again, X was one step ahead. The facility's self-destruct system had been subtly modified, its controls rerouted to a secure server that only he could access. Donald Trump's next move demonstrated why he had been a key player in this drama from the start. Using connections from his presidency, He arranged for a real-time video feed of the operation to be shared with selected world leaders. "Watch closely," his message read. "This is what happens when you try to control something that should remain free." Statham and his team finally reached the level where X was being held, but the rescue wasn't going to be simple. Chen had set up a series of challenges that would force them to choose between saving X and preventing the quantum technology from falling into hostile hands. What Chen didn't know was that X had already made that choice for them. As the operation reached its critical phase, the true magnitude of what X had created began to emerge. The quantum shield wasn't just a defensive technology, it was a new paradigm for digital freedom, a way to ensure that no government or organization could ever establish total control over the world's digital infrastructure. Martinez, monitoring from the command center, received a final message from X just as Statham's team breached the last security perimeter. The message was simple, but changed everything. The Falcon never left the nest. What they think they have is just a shadow. The real shield is already deployed. In the chaos of the rescue operation's climax, as multiple international forces converged on the facility and Statham's team fought their way toward X, a larger truth was emerging. This wasn't just about saving a kidnapped teenager. It was about preserving a future where digital freedom could exist without the threat of centralized control. As Chapter 3 draws to its explosive conclusion, all the pieces are in motion. Statham's team is moments away from reaching X. Trump's strategic revelations have thrown multiple international agencies into chaos. And somewhere in the digital realm, a quantum shield created by a brilliant teenager is quietly changing the rules of global power dynamics forever. The final moments of the rescue operation unfolded like a perfectly choreographed dance of chaos. Jason Statham, having fought his way through 6 levels of increasingly sophisticated resistance, finally reached the central chamber where X was being held. But what he found there changed everything about the mission. X wasn't restrained or unconscious as they had feared. Instead, the 14-year-old was sitting calmly at a computer terminal, his fingers flying across multiple keyboards. The room's screens displayed streams of code that seemed to move with an almost organic rhythm. Marcus Chen and his remaining team members stood at a distance, their weapons lowered, expressions revealing a dawning realization that they had been outplayed by a teenager. "Took you long enough," X said without looking up, a hint of his father's characteristic smirk playing on his lips. "I've been keeping them busy, but we're about to have company from several nations who really shouldn't be on U.S. soil right now." At Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump was orchestrating the diplomatic side of the operation with a mastery that reminded everyone why he had been such a force in international relations. The former president had arranged a live video feed of the facility's exterior, showing the approaching forces from Russia, China, and several other nations. But instead of alerting conventional military channels, he did something unexpected. He started a live stream on Truth Social. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to see is going to change everything. Some people say I don't understand technology. Believe me, I understand it better than anyone. And what my good friend Elon's boy has done? It's incredible. Maybe the most incredible thing ever." Back in the facility, Statham quickly understood why Chen's team had stood down. X hadn't just been leaving breadcrumbs. He had been systematically taking control of every system in the facility, creating an impenetrable digital fortress around himself. The kidnapping hadn't gone as planned because X had allowed himself to be taken, turning the entire operation into an elaborate trap. "They thought they were after quantum encryption," X explained as Statham secured the room. "What they didn't understand is that we'd already moved beyond that. What I created isn't about control, it's about freedom, true digital autonomy." Viktor Petrov, watching through the facility's cameras from his secure location, finally realized the magnitude of his mistake. The technology he had tried to steal wasn't a weapon to control the world's digital infrastructure. It was a shield that would make such control impossible. His decades-long plan to establish digital dominance had been undone by a teenager who saw a completely different future. Trump's live stream suddenly split into multiple feeds, showing not just the facility, but also the reactions of world leaders as they realized what was happening. The former president had turned the rescue operation into a global demonstration of both power and restraint. Sometimes, he announced to his growing audience, the best deals are the ones where everyone has to play fair. Sarah Martinez, coordinating with Agent Cooper, received urgent updates from military channels. The approaching foreign forces had halted their advance, their own communications suddenly filled with uncertainty. Something was happening to their command and control systems. Not a hostile takeover, but a fundamental shift in how they operated. "It's like watching digital democracy being born," Tyler Thompson muttered as he monitored the changes rippling through global networks. The quantum shield wasn't just protecting systems, it was transforming them, making them simultaneously more secure and more transparent. In the facility's central chamber, X finally turned away from his keyboards to face his would-be captors. "Mr. Chen," he addressed the mercenary leader, "I think it's time we discussed who really hired you." "Because it wasn't Mr. Petrov, was it?" Chen's stoic expression cracked slightly, revealing a glimpse of the larger game at play. The mercenary reached slowly into his jacket, not for a weapon, but for a phone. On its screen was a message that would soon expose a conspiracy involving some of the world's most powerful tech companies. Donald Trump's live stream numbers were breaking records, but what happened next would truly break the internet. The former president, with perfect theatrical timing, welcomed a surprise guest to Mar-a-Lago, Elon Musk himself, who had landed minutes earlier. "Folks, what you're seeing today isn't just about saving a brave young man," Trump announced, his arm around Musk's shoulders. "It's about saving something bigger, our digital freedom. And let me tell you, when I was president, I saw things. Terrible things. Plans to control everything you do online. But today, those plans are finished." Musk, taking the microphone, added his own dramatic flair to the moment. X didn't just create a shield, he created a key that belongs to everyone and no one. Think of it as a digital declaration of independence. The quantum shield was now fully operational, its effects visible to anyone monitoring global internet traffic. But unlike the dystopian control system Petrov and his hidden backers had envisioned, this technology was doing something revolutionary. It was making centralized digital control technically impossible. In the Nevada facility, Statham's team began their extraction, but not before X completed his final coding sequence. The teenager had one last surprise for everyone, a demonstration of what true digital freedom looked like. With a few keystrokes, he activated protocols that would permanently transform the internet's underlying architecture. "My father taught me that technology should set us free, not control us," X explained as they made their way to the surface. What better way to ensure that than to make control technically impossible? The foreign forces that had been approaching the facility now found themselves in an unprecedented situation. Their advanced cyber weapons were useless, not because they had been disabled, but because the very nature of digital warfare had been transformed. The quantum shield wasn't just a defensive technology, it was a peacekeeping one. Trump's reaction to all of this, captured live on his stream, would indeed break the internet. In a moment of unscripted sincerity, the former president looked directly into the camera and said something that would be replayed millions of times. "You know, sometimes the real power isn't in controlling things. It's in letting them be free. That's what makes America great. And that's what this brave young man just did for the whole world." The stream concluded with an impromptu press conference featuring Trump, Musk, and a live video link to X and Statham from their extraction helicopter. The 14-year-old, looking remarkably composed after his ordeal, answered questions with a wisdom that belied his years. "The quantum shield isn't owned by any one person or nation," X explained to the world. "It's like sunlight or air. It belongs to everyone. And just like you can't own all the air, you can't control all the data anymore." As the helicopter touched down at a secure location, The full impact of what had transpired began to ripple through the global community. Stock markets fluctuated as tech giants realized their dreams of digital dominance were now technically impossible. Intelligence agencies worldwide had to recalibrate their entire approach to cyber operations. The final twist came when Maria Petrov, still at Mar-a-Lago, revealed the true extent of her role in the events. She hadn't just betrayed her husband's plans. She had been working with Musk and Trump for months, helping to ensure that when the quantum shield was revealed, it would be done in a way that prevented any single power from trying to stop it. Donald Trump's last tweet about the event would indeed break all social media records. Just watched a 14-year-old boy save the internet and maybe the world. No deep state control anymore. Digital freedom wins. America leads again. Most watched rescue in history. As the dust settled on this extraordinary event, the world began to understand the true magnitude of what had transpired in that Nevada facility. A kidnapping plot had been transformed into a moment of global transformation. A rescue operation had become a declaration of digital independence, and a 14-year-old boy, armed with nothing but his genius and courage, had changed the very nature of digital freedom forever. The story of Jason Statham's rescue of X would be told and retold, but it was Trump's masterful handling of the public revelation that turned it into a cultural phenomenon. In the end, it wasn't just about saving one boy. It was about saving the very concept of digital liberty for generations to come.